Well, franchises for decades have been promoted as the safe way for people to enter their own business. In the best examples, that's exactly the case. People use their retirement or other savings and effectively build themselves a job, a business and a future nest egg. But there's also truth in the power of the relationship between franchisor and franchisee always was in favour of the bigger company. In the worst cases, people lost their businesses, their money and sadly, in isolated cases, even their lives. The government has taken long-held recommendations to toughen up the franchise code and to give more power to the competition watchdog, the ACCC. One person who has led the charge to toughen these rules is Senator Deborah O'Neil, the chair of the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Corporations and Financial Service. She joins me now. Deborah, always good to chat to you. This is something that's been long held up as a place where there needed to be tougher rules because of that power imbalance.
100%, and it's great to be with you again, Ross, and to actually see some resolution. I actually brought a copy of the report that I printed off for myself to have a look at last night. That's the report, dated 2019. It was pretty comprehensive and it was unanimous, but there was actually no response from the previous government, and there's been an incremental response, including the Shaper review under the course of this Albanese government. But today, we finally got the meat on the bones that the franchising sector's needed. So tradies, farmers, franchisees, they all benefit from this investment today of $7.1 million to go to the ACCC to take on the worst of the worst who have been hurting people in this franchising sector rather than helping their own associated franchisee, but also really significantly changes to the unfair contracting and unfair trading terms, so that now franchisees will be able to have that protection, which before was just for small businesses not connected to a franchising structure.
Yeah, no, and one of the worst examples of that was when a franchisee effectively had products stuffed down their throats that they were forced to buy and they really had no choice, or to completely overhaul their store or whatever it might have been that they had at the behest of the franchisor that they had to cop the cost for, whether they could afford it or not. That was one example. One thing I want to bring in here is car dealers.
Absolutely.
For the first time, this is a key. Yep. And this comes after a court case from Mercedes owners, dealership owners, who basically were screwed over by Mercedes-Benz, the parent company in Germany. And this was highlighted in a court case that they lost the franchisees, but Justice Jonathan Beach highlighted that these changes might have been overdue, and that's what you've acted on.
That's exactly right. So in 2019, the formula that we've put in place today was actually available to the previous government. And there were all sorts of promises made. And then there was a holding pattern after the changes that were made under Michaelia Cash, who actually replaced Karen Andrews. Finally, what we've got today is a response to the clarity of that judgment for Mercedes-Benz dealers, which was basically that they didn't have the strength at law to be able to get fair and just compensation for a complete upheaval of their relationship with Mercedes-Benz without any sorts of compensation, without any consideration, just absolutely a form of abuse. Now, Labor understands small, medium and indeed large businesses. These are big companies. You think about traders in Mercedes-Benz, they're sophisticated people. Often it's a multi-generational business. They've been doing this for a long time. They've been adjusting to the market. They've been doing all the things they need to survive and grow. In fact, in the car industry, they employ 68,000 people, Ross, and they have in traineeships or apprentices 8,000 people. So we need these businesses, signature businesses in regional and rural Australia to survive. The reality is they didn't have a leg to stand on. We needed to make this change for big companies as well as smaller ones so that they could have a fair and even playing field. Labor's always going to stand up for Aussie businesses, especially when they're being mauled by very greedy multinationals. Now, they're not all like that. And the ones who are doing the right thing, and I just want to give a plug to Toyota because all of the dealers tell me all the time that they're the standout, fantastic company to deal with. So they've got nothing to fear from these changes to the unfair contract and the unfair trading practices. But those dodgy ones that have been operating in a very aggressive and intimidatory way, shutting down businesses, ripping off Australian businesses, meaning job reductions right across the sector, They are now on notice. A Labor government will make sure that the protections that Australian businesses need to thrive and prosper in the franchising sector will go ahead.
So, this is important because at a time when you've got record numbers of small businesses going under in Australia, times are tough for them, there's no doubt. Consumer demand has been down. This is the type of protection that you need to ensure that they are not put out of business for the wrong reasons. That's the key here.
Absolutely. And these businesses haven't asked for anything other than a level playing field, a fair go. But we're hearing stories about a product being dumped in on our car dealers, numbers being fudged every month to make the numbers look good for the head office back in, whether it could be in the US or it could be in China or in Toyota's case, in Japan. When all of these numbers don't tell the truth about what's going on, and when power is being used to abuse the providers of these fundamental, important supply networks across our country, that the chain of car dealers are, then we have to stand up for Australian businesses and make sure that Australian jobs remain onshore and people can access their car dealer that they've been doing business with for 30 or 40 or 50 years in some cases, and that they can actually go in, get a guaranteed good product that's going to get proper services and it's going to be properly maintained. These things are fundamental expectations. Tradies need the assurance of that. Farmers need the assurance of that. They don't need product that is uncertain, and the car dealers don't need to be mauled and intimidated by those overseas businesses that have been doing the wrong thing. Labor's come in. We've heard these businesses. We want to keep it tidy. Give everybody a fair go.
Senator Deborah O'Neil, always good to have you on the program. Many thanks for your time today.